Okay guys, we are back. Group D, England's group, and the question on every England's fan's lips is, will Roy whisk it? But before we answer that important question, we've got to introduce our co-host. Ben, how are you doing?
All the better for hearing you say, will Roy whisk it? That is...
Specialist.
That's a shock, I'll be honest. I've not expected that. Here we go then. England, Uruguay, Costa Rica, Italy. Where do you want to start, Jack? You can lead us off.
I feel like it's appropriate to start with Uruguay, and I'm not sure why. It just feels right. So
appropriate. So a weird head of phrase. Yeah, right. Uruguay.
It just feels right, you know.
With the best player in the world playing for them, how are they going to get on?
Well, that is if he's playing for them, I guess, and if you think he's the best player in the world. But yeah, Suarez is a funny one because this season there's been a few strikers for a few teams who they've been played by their clubs during their injury spells, and it's cost them. You know, Diego Costa has been played repeatedly through injury, and the question is going to be, do Uruguay follow suit with what Atletico did with Diego Costa in terms of playing their kind of talisman player, even if he's not 100% fit?
Well, I think they will. He was the top scorer in the South American qualifying, despite Uruguay having a pretty pathetic qualifying campaign. Finished fifth, had to go through a qualifier. But yeah, I think Suarez is the kind of player that obviously we see a lot of, but I think that he won't even act like he's got an injury. I think he'll phase it out and he'll just play like the Luis Suarez that we all recognise. I've never really seen Luis Suarez play when he's not been fit because I don't notice.
Well, he's never been injured, but I remember before this season people were talking about, Suarez, he never gets injured, and then suddenly there's been these problems come out kind of after the season's ended, really. He's had various surgeries. Obviously, Uruguay are a team that don't really lack attacking options. They've got Cavani, and they've also got Diego Forlan, who had a very good World Cup campaign last year, I guess.
Last time out, you mean? 4 years ago.
4 years ago, sorry.
God, time flies, doesn't it?
It does fly. It only seems like yesterday that Diego Forlan was a 31-year-old.
All the Diegos.
I'm lost for words.
So on Maradona, how's he going to perform?
But no, he had a really good season. Did he get? How many goals did he get before? He played really well. He
was player of the tournament, Forlan, at the last World Cup. He was the standout man. He was like joint top scorer with a few others. I think Muller got it because of games played or whatever it was. I don't know. It was assists.
Technicalities.
The shit way that they did it last time out. But yeah, as you mentioned, Cavani, Hernandez, Forlan, Suarez, a pretty good four-piece that. But as you point out, Forlan is now applying his trade in your favourite country of them all, Japan. Yeah. Aside from that, how do we think they're getting on? We continue to talk about teams with better offences than defences. So, Uruguay another staple for this?
Well, they've got Lugano, who's played pretty well, and they've also got Godin and Cáceres, who plays at Juve. They've got some good defenders. And Coates as well. He's never really proven himself in England, but he has had a few injuries. I was going to say, didn't he win Uruguay's Premier League's Young Player of the Year a few years ago? I
think he got the Young Player of the Tournament at one of the Copa Americas, and hence people signed him. Yeah.
I mean, Uruguay's a weird one because we've talked a little bit about teams like Chile, how we don't really know what to expect with them. And you look across this Uruguay lineup, and there's key players who stand out and you go, I've seen them, I know them, they can play well. And I look at their midfield, there's a fair few players there who, I don't want to say I don't know the names because I know the names. I don't really know what they're going to bring to the table.
Well, they're one of these teams, aren't they? As you mentioned, like Chile, they're a World Cup intrigue. We don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, we say this, we obviously know the players that play for the big teams. We know the Rodriguez's that play for Atletico. We know people that play for Lazio and Southampton and Liverpool and PSG. We know the big players. The question is it those other players that are either going to rise to the occasion or make it difficult for those around them to perform? I think that is the key question when looking at a team like Uruguay. I do think they're a good side, but I do fear for them. If Suarez isn't on song, as I say, he was the top scorer in South American qualifying, I'm not sure how well they'll do. We consider to say they're an interesting one, but every team's an interesting one. There's a story to every team. Speaking of stories to every team, Costa Rica. The team we all know about. I've got so much information on Costa Rica. I don't know what I'm going to do with it all, frankly.
Let me get out my notes. Right. Where are they? Costa Rica are a team that no one is backing. I'm
What do you
getting
mean?
back to the horse references from yesterday. They're a team who you look at. There are not that many superstars. We talked about teams like Chile and Uruguay and how it's like, oh, they have a few big players. It's how those other players perform. This is a team of those other players for the most part.
Yeah.
Where I don't feel they've got some experience there. I mean, Joel Campbell, maybe the player you could say, oh, I know a little bit about him because he's, done pretty well. Brian Ruiz as well had an okay period at Fulham. I don't know if he's still there. He had a really good first season at Fulham. I think he is still there now.
I think he went out on loan to PSV, but he's still contracted to Fulham, I think.
Yeah.
He's their captain anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what is there to say about this team other than they're the kind of team that go into a World Cup and no one knows nothing about them, and it's that unknown quantity factor which could prove a stumbling block for some of the other teams in this group. You'd say, looking at this group, it's a team made up of 3 fairly strong teams in Uruguay, Italy and England. Costa Rica people will look at and go, oh, don't need to worry about them, we'll focus on the other ones. But they're the kind of team who could well prove a test for these teams who just expect to win.
Well, they're the kind of team that Italy will look at and Uruguay will look at and go, Costa Rica, yeah, we'll deal with that. And the team England are like, bloody hell, what could happen here? Oh, no. Oh,
how can we lose on penalties in the group stage to them?
yeah, it'll be that sort of situation. Costa Rica, again, I keep harking back to it. They're a team we don't know about. I'm excited. I like that. I like finding about new players that are going to make an impact and upset the big dogs in each group. I think Costa Rica is certainly the team in this group that could do that. As you mentioned, Joel Campbell, even at 21, feels like he's been around for ages. 32 caps for his country at 21 years old. That is unheard of in most cases. So yeah, shall we shy away from Costa Rica and move over to Balotelli's boys?
Balotelli's boys, is that what they're going to be known as now? Balotelli FC?
Depending on how well he does, I guess. If he continues his Euros form, why not? Or Perlo's people.
Perlo's people, or what about Parolo's? Yeah, I've lost. Right, you win the battle of the Chile's children. Is this what we're doing now?
Well, I don't know. I've got loads of these lined up. Do you want to keep this going, or do you want to actually?
Let's get onto some football. Why not? That is what I think we're here for.
Yeah.
Italy. I like Italy, and I like them because they've got a lot of players who play in Italy, and I think that's going to serve them well. I think they've got all but 3 of their players in their 23-man squad.
Correct.
I was looking at this before. I think the others play for PSG, all of them. I think it's Sirigu,
Motta and Verratti.
Yeah. Thank you.
You
saved me there.
No
but no, they've got a good team. And it's a team that's played well in the Serie A system, and obviously we expect to see kind of that Italian playing style that's done so well in the domestic divisions of Italy. The idea of your 3 centre-backs and your wing-backs. I'd expect to see that carried over into Prandelli's side. But I look at their team, and it's a good team. It's a very good team. I like the midfield. I think there's a balance in their midfield to be found, and I think they found it quite nicely there.
Yeah, aside with Spain, I think they've got the kind of the prettiest midfield in terms of the way they play. As you mentioned, people like Marchisio, you got Motta, you got Perlo, De Rossi, Verratti, who you never know might play. He's not experienced at international level, but you never know. And then obviously when you're focusing your team around the big man on campus, Mario Balotelli, only 23. It's easy to forget that. I think Mario is just a little bit older than me, and I find that crazy considering how mental he can be sometimes. I think they'll get out of the group. I think they will probably win the group. I'm saying it now. They had a very good Euros, got to the final of that, obviously got kind of trounced by Spain. But I think this Italian team know what they are. And I'm not sure in the most recent years, aside from obviously the Euros, they know what they're doing. But this team to me seems very focused, very kind of in line with what the manager wants, which is sometimes quite rare for an turn to Roy then. Quite rare for an Italian manager to know what he wants. But this team have a system, and as you mentioned, because a lot of them play in Italy, they know how each other are going to play. It's not like you've got players in different divisions who play things a little bit differently. You haven't got, for example, you haven't got a Wayne Rooney who's used to the hustle and bustle of the Premier League trying to fit into an Italian team, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think the thing with Italy is that they have a balance that a lot of national teams simply do not have. And I think that could serve them very well. I feel as if the Italian team, you look at it, they've got Buffon, an all-round leader. He's 36. I want to say this could be his last World Cup, but he's the kind of player who seems like he's been around forever, and it wouldn't even surprise me if he kept playing in the national team till he was 40.
Yeah.
I know they've got Sirigu and players who might want to say otherwise, but I think he's the kind of player who could play for another 4 years. Pirlo, again, another player people have been kind of counting down the days to his retirement, and obviously he did get released. He went to Juventus. He's lasted another 2 years, and he still seems like he has ability on a football pitch. I can't see him playing to 39. That would be incredible for an outfield player. So this might be his last hurrah. But I think he's going to be instrumental in that team. I think you look at the Italian team, you look at how they play. Pirlo's been there for years. His role has slightly changed as he's got older, but he's always been a focal point at the midfield, and I think he's still going to be that for them. And I think he's the kind of player who, if you want to play well against the Italians and you want to do well, you've got to shut him down and not let him get those passes, because as soon as you let him dictate the tempo, the game is gone, because they've got such good players around him in terms of the movement, in terms of the space they'll find. You know, they've got some really fast players and some really talented players, particularly on the deck. They're the kind of team who aren't going to be relying on pumping into the box. They've not got that huge target man.
No, but they're a team that can do that. Balotelli can provide that role. He's a very versatile player, so if they need to do that, they can do that. Shall we... Oh, it's time, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been delaying the inevitable. This is what people have been waiting for.
Yeah, we're going to give our rundown on the three lions, England's Braves. You know, there's... I don't even know... honestly, I don't know where to start.
I'm looking at it. Should we just talk about the fact there's so many Liverpool players? We are Liverpool fans, so... Liverpool FC, obviously, first World Cup for them.
Three live events on the chest. I fancy England to actually do okay in the group. I'm never this optimistic about England, especially in recent years, but I don't think we're that bad. What a compliment.
We're not that bad, ladies and gentlemen. Write that down.
We're
Dr.
not that
Benji.
bad. We're not that bad.
Well, this is the interesting thing. Like, obviously, we're 20 and 22. You are 22, right?
No, thanks, Jack. Oh, what a lovely compliment paid by my co-host. Doesn't even know my bloody age. I nearly did a really big swear
23,
there.
23.
Jesus Christ. I'm talking. So, Hart in goal. Then, we all know about the England team, don't we? Johnson, Cahill, Jagielka, Baines. A bit of a concern, that back four. Not a massive concern, but they're not kind of... It's not Dani Alves, Thiago Silva, David Luiz, and Marcelo, is it? It's just not.
No. Well, this is the thing I was going to come back onto when I fucked up your age and you went on a tangent.
Yeah, keep talking about
it. I'm sorry, Ben. But no, what I want to talk about was the kind of... In my living memory, we've always been hyped up as this team. You always hear about the golden generation of England, this group of players. And this is kind of the first year where we've not got that quote-unquote golden generation anymore. There's a few kind of... I guess leftovers from that in terms of Lampard and Gerrard,
Rooney,
who debatably came a little bit later. But for the most part, that generation has now gone. I think Ashley Cole kind of marked the end of that, as did the departure of John Terry. And this is the first year where England aren't being massively hyped. And I think their group, as cruel as it's been to them in terms of the challenge it's laid out in front of them, it's actually suited them quite well, because there isn't quite as much media pressure on England to do well this World Cup. No. But if you were to look at the England side that turned up 4 years ago and compare it to the England squad that's at this World Cup, besides the centre-back areas, I don't think we're that much weaker than we were before.
No, I think that is, in essence, due to the good form of some of England's players. And I hate to bring it up, people, but it is down to Liverpool's form. I think there's a core now of Liverpool players which are gonna play. I think Roy trusts them. I think they trust each other, which is majorly important. The only thing that concerns me is our fullbacks. Like I rate Baines. I'm not sure I rate Baines against top class internationals. The same goes for Glenn Johnson. He will destroy teams that are weaker than him. He may be left a little exposed against teams that are slightly better, such like Peru, for example, all those powerhouses of international football. I think depending on if, as we say at the start, if Roy whisks it, then we may have a good chance. Like if he thinks that we can just go for it and not worry about the defending side of it too much, trust Gerrard to kind of patrol and do his business, trust Cahill and Jagielka to just put their shift in. Same goes for Johnson and Baines. I think going forward, we're quite not scary, but we're quite exciting. Sterling, Lallana, Sturridge, Rooney if he plays well. Would you? Okay, let's talk about it, Jack. I'm asking you the question. Yes or no? Would you drop Rooney if you were the manager?
Yes, I would, but I think you'd get. It's that kind of. I mean, based on his form, you have to drop him if you were going to go purely off form. But he's the kind of player who I feel like he's so overdue a good tournament for England. And I know that doesn't mean he's going to have a good tournament for England. But Rooney's one of these players who's come in and there's always been this fanfare. Rooney the superstar, Rooney this, Rooney that. Let's be honest, in this recent season, he hasn't been a standout player that maybe players predicted him to be. But the World Cup always seems to produce this platform for players to perform on. You look at some of the players in the past who have really shone at World Cups, they've not been the first choice players, they've been players who have come in and done well when they've been called upon. And I do wonder if, in playing Rooney, if the kind of, I want to say the pressure of the tournament, not even that, it's like the reverse of the pressure, the kind of motivating factor that, hey, you're at a World Cup, might just encourage him to step up his performance. And as much as I think it's a risk to drop Rooney, I think it's a risk not to play him.
I think he should be dropped. I don't think he offers anything to this current England team. You may say, well, he can produce a moment of magic. Are we really going to risk that? Is Roy going to risk that? He probably will. I think Rooney will probably play every game because Roy is potentially worried about the media backlash. I don't know. But if I was Hodgson, I would think Rooney stops the flow of England's attacks. He tries to make it focus around him. His movement's poor. He doesn't know how to operate in this team. He's not got a specific role. He's almost got a free role behind Sturridge, which basically means he gets in the way. And that might be like a horrible way of me putting it, but I can't help think that a player like Chamberlain or Lallana or Barkley would be better suited to the way England are playing at the moment.
Well, he's kind of the Nasri of England, except we've not dropped him. And I don't think Rooney should have been dropped for the entire squad, but
no.
I kind of think there's players that, based on current form and based on the system we're playing, are better adapted to play that role he's going to be
I would
occupying.
Sometimes the best Wayne Rooney is a kind of wound up, annoyed Wayne Rooney. So say Roy drops him for the first game when England win 2-0, and in the second game we're failing to break down whoever we're playing, and Sturridge isn't quite clicking. Because sometimes Sturridge doesn't click. Sometimes Sturridge has a kind of a bit of a flaily game where he just pings things wide from anywhere. Then you bring an annoyed Rooney on for 30 minutes and hope he grabs you a goal and tries to prove to people that he should be starting in the third game. I think dropping Rooney wouldn't have an adverse effect on the team or on him. I think it would benefit everybody. There's only going to be one way to find out, and that's if Roy does it. I don't think he will, but I would. So we've gone over England a little bit more extensively than other teams because, makes sense to. But now it comes down to the predictions, Jack. It's that time again.
Prediction time.
And this is pretty tough. This is one of the more difficult predictions to make. Because as we point out, there are 3 relatively evenly matched teams in this group. So who are you going for?
Italy to head the group, England to come second. I think Uruguay might just lack that defensive kind of strength in the midfield, and it's going to be a case of, is Suarez fit? Does Forlan still turn up?
I think Uruguay rely on Suarez quite a lot, and I'm not sure he'll be able to drag them through a group which involves England and Italy. I think if it was, say, I'm going to wind you up here. If it was, say, Italy, Japan, and Costa Rica, there'd be no issue, right? Uruguay will be straight through there. Japan, not a hope against Luis Suarez's Uruguay. But I agree with you. I think Italy will probably top the group, or England will, either or. And so it'll be England and Italy to go through. Uruguay third, miss out, and Costa Rica will prop it up from the bottom.
Italy are an interesting one because as solid as I think Italy are, in recent memory they have had a few games where they've just not turned up. I don't know. I think they'll head the group, but I think that might cost them the knockout stage. My mind drifts somewhat back to their 4-3 scrape of a win against Japan, who you like to bash so much. Japan have quickly becoming my second team right now.
Yeah, they are.
With all your bashing, I'm getting quite defensive about my Japan. But no, I think Italy are going to do well. I think England are going to do well. Obviously, we don't want to beat too much around the bush with England because you hear so much about England on TV and stuff. But I think the big thing is going to be, is Rooney dropped? And also, what system do England play? I think Roy's still experimenting, and come the friendlies that are coming up, we'll kind of have a better idea exactly what's going on in the England camp.
Yeah, well, this is one of the tougher groups, people watching on YouTube and people listening on iTunes, so get on to us. Tweet us at ForTheFans Show, or leave a comment in the description, in the comment section, of YouTube. Tell us, who do you think's going through? And would you drop Wayne Rooney? Is another question, I guess. What do you think? Should he be gone? Should he stay? What do you think? Let us know for the Fans Show on all platforms. Jack, are we done?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm done. Thank you.
Are you ending it or am I?
I don't know. I'll do the honours. Why not?
Okay.
So,
I'll pretend I just. Yeah. Go on.
Okay. You just sit in the corner, right? So from me, Jack, and my co-host,
me, Ben.
We're out. Thank you for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow as we review Group 5.
No, it's not 5. It's not number
E.
E.
I'm sorry, mate. Don't beat me.
Oh, just.